Hello, Lars Muhl.
Hello. Yes.
Hi. Thank you very much for being here. It's really an honor to have you here.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here.
yeah, thanks a lot. We're gonna talk about some beautiful things. And first, I would like to introduce you to the people who maybe do not know you yet. Lars Muhl, you are an author, you're a mystic, you're a musician. You've been traveling for decades in the realms of Yeshua, Mary the Magdalene. You've studied the Aramaic language, which is the language that was spoken in the time when Yeshua and Mary the Magdalene lived. They spoke that language, and I want to hear a lot about that. And you were a musician and a famous musician in Denmark, and you've traveled all around the world. Your books are published worldwide. And there was a moment in your life when spirituality came on your path, and this became like a doorway, maybe, to a new kind of living, a new way of living. Um, can you tell us something about you coming onto the spiritual path, and what have you found there, and what makes it so wonderful and beautiful for you?
It really started when I was quite young. I was 8 years old and I was playing one Sunday morning with my little sister. It was a summer morning and the sun was coming in, and suddenly, just by this, just for a moment, it was like the ether opened up and I could see the net of light that is behind everything. And what really what really shocked me was that I could see through my sister, and I could see through the furniture, I could see through the walls, and this net of light was just continuing in keeping everything together. And it was
Wow.
only like, like, and then
Just
closed.
like that, it opened, and did it stay open, or?
No, no. Then 2 years later, when I was 10, my little sister died from a brain tumor.
Well,
tumor. And that really, really made the whole difference. That was actually the start of my journey, because I was suddenly, this opening came back and was a permanent thing for a few years. And it was because I did not know what to do with it. I did not know what it was very frightening. I could also, the most frightening thing being that the adults I felt that they were saying one thing and doing another. They were not being honest, or they were estranged. They weren't really aware who they were and why they were here. And to a child, that is the most scary thing, because you depend on the adults. So for some years, and I mean, my parents were really trying their best, no doubt. They also had there to deal with. My father was totally heartbroken because my little sister was his darling, and he was totally out of it. So my mother, who was a hairdresser, who had a shop in the flat we were living, she was the one who was keeping everything together. And from day one, after my sister's death, she was determined to go forward and trying to. So there was a lot of things, but it meant that in school, in the school I was in, there was more than 1,000 children. I could not bear to stay there. I was too
hmm.
sensitive. But they, at the same time, they did not know what to do with a child like that. So I think they were relieved that I did not show up.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a lot of free time. And that was how I started to find refuge in churches. And it happens to be when one day the organ player was rehearsing, and that sound of Bach and Messiaen and all those great composers, it was really like healing me.
Yeah.
So I started to visit all the churches here in Aarhus, knowing exactly that on Wednesday I could go to this church and this organist would be practicing there, or I could go there on a Friday. And so every day I could actually go and just sit there and listen to all this music. So in many ways, it was the start of my musical upbringing, and also my spiritual. It started that one day I asked my first prayer really to God, where I said, please show me, give me a sign that my sister is still alive somewhere.
Yeah.
And then a small feather was coming down from the roof and just lying just in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I knew, okay, there is a God,
Yeah.
and that my sister is there.
Wow.
And then when I was 14 years old and I was really, really, really out of it, I received a book from an anonymous sender. To this day, I don't know who sent it to me. And it was actually from a book of a Sufi master called Hasrat Inayat Khan.
Mm.
It was Aphorisms. And the first thing, I just opened it randomly, and the first sentence I met was, if you will approach us, we will bow down and lift you up.
Wow.
To me, this was the angels talking to me. And from that moment on, I knew I was not alone.
Yeah.
So then I could see in the back of the book that this movement had a department in Holland. So I wrote them and got my first book in English. And mind you, I could not speak English because I did not go to school. So I actually learned to read English from the book of Hassan Inayat Khan, where he was talking about healing.
Yeah.
So that became my first really, you could say, education. And I read that book over and over again, not understanding half of it, until I started to understand more and more. And I still have the book with me. And also the book of Aphorisms. So he meant a whole lot to me. And
wow.
So that was the start for me.
What a great, well, this book, what a great gift. And still you don't know who sent it. And yeah, wonderful.
But then I started, this was in the 60s, and the music came in, beat music, rock and roll, the Beatles and stuff. And that was my rescue because I did not know what to do.
Yeah.
So I got together with a group of boys who were in the same position as I. They were trying to find a way out.
Yeah. Like
They
everyone.
they could not cope with all this.
Yeah.
So we did not know what to do during the summer. So we went to Israel on this tour. We had a contract there. And I was not thinking that, it was only when we came there, and one day we played in Bethlehem, next day in Jerusalem, then in Nazareth. Then it started to dawn on me, wow, we are actually here where Yeshua was walking,
And in these days, was there already in your life, did you already feel a connection to Yeshua?
Yeah, exactly. So we came to Qumran on a day off. Every time we had a day off, we were taken somewhere to see the land. And, we went to Qumran, where the Essene mystery school was situated, the Dead Sea Scrolls and all these things. And when we came there, the guide was showing us around in the ruins of the old monastery or university, as it was. And the guide was telling us, and over there was the scriptorium, and over there was this, and there was that. And suddenly I heard myself say, hey, sorry to interrupt, I think over there was this and not that,
Wow.
And everybody was just, and all my band members, they were looking at me if I was crazy, And on that tour, there was also a big old German professor. He was actually standing right behind me, and I could feel his big tummy next to my back, And he said, I think the young man is right.
Wow. Wow.
And that was really me coming home. I knew at that time that I needed to find out more about the Essenes and the connection to Yeshua. And that was the start, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say for most of my life, I've been into studying the Essenes and the connections, Jeshua's connections to them, and what they really meant, and how far back it goes, because they go back to in the beginning of time, really.
Wow. And I really want to talk about this a little bit more, because thanks to you, this has, for me, it has really opened up. Of course, I I already knew a little bit that the story of Jesus, how it is told in the churches, is not the true story. Somehow this had already opened up a bit in me. And reading your book, The O Manuscript, where you talk about your connection with the seer, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that too. But you talk about the truth, the origin of the mystery. You already mentioned it a little bit, the mystery school where Yeshua came out of, and also Mary Magdalene played a very important role. What can you say about the origin and the original, the origin of the teachings of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene?
You see, there's something very basic one should know about this, because this is that in that at that time there was not a belief in reincarnation. It was a fact, you know. Why? Not because they had fancy ideas or anything, but by experience. They were actually doing practices that is, you know, and that is what divides them from quantum physics today, because the quantum physics of today, they are really on the same path now towards how things were created, and that there is a consciousness in the universe, you know. The universe is conscious, it is intelligent, you know. But these people, you know, the quantum physicists have all those theories, but the Essenes and people like them, they knew from practice and experiencing that they could go everywhere, anywhere. You can just read the book of Enoch, which was one of the main books of the Essenes, how they were able to go back in time, you know, to before everything was created. They could go anywhere. They could read the book of life. And that was exactly what the seer was doing, for example, at one level. And Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet of America, was doing the same, you know. And it is actually through Edgar Cayce also that we know a lot about the Essenes and Yeshua and their workings together, you know. But you should imagine that Yeshua was not the only begotten son. He was the first soul. And he came in already in Atlantis and in Lemuria, but as spirit, first and foremost. That was before everything was created or manifested physically. So he came in as meant to be a kind of mentor or big brother or a matrix for everyone else to see this is how the experience you are going to get now, and the possibilities you are going to get through an earthly incarnation will be like this. You just have to follow this man, you know. And he incarnated as IAO in as spirit, and then as Adam, which means blood and earth, and then a whole range of incarnations that ended and culminated with Yeshua, the Nazarene. And but you should also imagine that this entity have incarnated on other planes than the earthly. He have been incarnated on other planets, in other star systems. That same entity is just from the same mold of sons of God or daughters of God who have been sent out, but it is the same entity, just with different faces, you know, on different planes, you know, spreading giving all the incarnated souls the possibility to do the right thing. But we should imagine that remember that we got free will when we came in here, because that's part of our experience here. And the reason why we are here now on earth, a lot of the souls who are incarnated now, and especially some of the younger ones who come in now, have never been on earth before. Oh. That is why they don't know how to cope with the silly rules of our existence here. Yeah. And they are actually here to break those rules. But instead they are met by diagnosis and medicine, you know, and all this shit. but they're actually here to show us that there are other ways
Yeah.
of seeing things, you know. So what is happening on earth today is actually that everything is being broken up, you know. We are breaking up all the norms and rules, and you know, we used to do this, we used to do that. Yeah, but it's outdated now because there's so much more to humans. But all that is why we experience, for example, the past 2 or 3 years, culminating with COVID and fear and all these things. It is all man-made.
Yeah.
I will not go into any theories or conspiracies or anything. I just can tell you that that is how it is. You know, there is powers here on earth who don't want this evolvement to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Very clear. Yeah. And this is also what happened probably in the time, well, when Mary was just erased from
Oh yeah,
all the
yeah, yeah.
stories.
I mean, you can see. I mean, there's people who think it can't be right, true that so many people can be involved in this. But just go back and see what is happening in America. You know, they are shooting presidents, they are lying and cheating and being corrupt, and at the same time they're pointing fingers at the Russians and at the
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the Russians are any better, but
Uh-huh.
there is this power game going on that has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with us other than it is a possibility for us to make a choice.
Yes.
Now we have to make the right choice,
Yes.
even if it means that we lose our social status, our everything, because we are losing it anyway.
And what
Because
do you see as the right choice?
it is to be truthful and be true to who you are and
Yeah.
forget all the the all those fears and lies and stuff, and have the guts to stand up and say, fine, if you choose that, that's your business, I'm choosing this.
Yeah.
We should also, there is a, so much fright of dying, you know. We forget totally that we have to go one day, we have to leave this place. There's no way around it. And I don't understand that people are so scared, shit scared about this, because it is only a kind of initiation. And if we knew our Christianity, if we knew the real teaching of Yeshua, we would know that he knew all about that, and the Essenes did. And he was trying to show us there's no, it's no big problem.
Yeah.
It's you know, a bridge from this uh, way of being to a higher way of being, you know.
Yeah.
And we have so many near-death experiences around the world that tell us exactly the same.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
So if we were not so shit scared, there would be no one who could really control us in the way that somebody is trying right now.
Yeah.
And I think that is really part of Yeshua's teachings. You know, he's saying, remember, I'm not the only one. You are all God's children. If you follow my example, you can do even greater wonders than I, he said. And I've never heard anybody tell us that in the church. This is very important. He's
Yeah.
actually telling us to do something. What was he doing? He was healing people. He was raising them from the dead. Why? He gave us all the answers. He said, for those who have faith, anything is possible. Does that mean you need to have blind faith? No. In Aramaic, the word for faith here means that it's based on a knowing that we are all carrying in our hearts intuitively. We might not be able to put it into words, but that doesn't, it's totally not the matter, you know. It is that we know about and we trust it and we stay with it. You know, every time we find ourselves in trouble, we run here, there, and everywhere. Or everywhere else than where we were supposed to go, but we should just go home.
Yeah.
Go home. You know, I had a grandmother who said to me already if I was out of it, she said, sit down, Lars, relax, count to 20 and take a few deep breaths. How difficult is that?
Yeah.
Instead of running here and there, but go back home. And that has always been the remedy that Yeshua was trying to give to his fellow
Beautiful.
beings. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and in these times, it's so, the distractions are getting so strong. It's so normal to sit behind the computer and the telephone and to find your connection outside of yourself
exactly,
instead of the place where it needs to be found.
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the huge challenge now that we are faced with. Why are we actually here?
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe in a short while everything will be taken from us. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are talking about that there is food shortage and there is economic crisis on the way. But you know, just stay centered. You
Yeah. And what I find so beautiful about these teachings is that this, the core and the essence, can never be taken away from you. Everything
know?
else can be taken away, but this is who we are.
Yeah, and if enough people would sit together and start projecting light instead of fear,
Yes.
we will change this. I mean, there's no way that these dark forces are going to get away with this.
No.
People who are trying to to control everybody else will, in the end, lose control over themselves.
Yeah, in a
History,
hard way, you get it back.
history have shown that always. For a while they can have their famous 15 minutes, but then suddenly something else will happen and they are gone and they will be gone forever. They will never come back.
Yeah.
And we should remember that, and we should not be frightened by all this stuff. But the only way you are afraid of all this is that you forget who you really are, and
Yeah.
we are not connected anymore. uh, but still we have Christianity. We go to churches. Our children and grandchildren are being baptized and confirmed, and we still don't know why we are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's how we have always done. But why are we
Yeah.
doing it?
Yeah.
If we have no trust, we were supposed to do this because it would connect us, to something. But
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah.
There's no connection.
No.
So why are we doing it? This is the question. You know, this is what my new book is. It's a very personal book, and it's actually about my. I was invited a few years back to be part of a documentary on the Aramaic language, and I've been to Israel many times because since the 60s, and visited Qumran and a special cave. I've done a video that is called The Gate of Light, where I visit that cave where Yeshua and the Essenes were doing that initiation called 40 Days in the Desert.
Mm.
And there I went, when I did that film, I went to that cave and I did that old chariot of fire.
I've
Uh,
seen it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened there, there was a Jewish cameraman with doing this, and he had never been there before. And he did not know what I was going to do. And when I did it, he was totally shaken by it because he did not know that a non-Jew like me would know a ceremony like that. He's a Kabbalist himself, so he was really moved by it. And when the light started to move around in the cave, he was so shaken. You can hear his testimony in the video. But the book is all about that trip to Israel.
Ah, okay.
Because before I did the video there, I went there on my own that was the third or fourth time I was there. And something happened. I felt asleep, and I was away for 8 hours or something. And then I woke up and it was dark, and I was connected through the ether or to the book of life, so to speak. And I had access to a book called the Book of Asap. And that is what it is, what I also are writing about here. What was in that book? did it say? You know, there was a lot of information, a lot of teaching. I was connected to my own Essene background, and all these things I'm sharing with the reader in that book.
Great.
So there's really many. It's my most personal book to date, and maybe the most important book, where I'm trying to find words for something I was not able to find words for before. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like new thing. So in that way, it has been important to me, you know.
And the title is beautiful. The title is "The Light Within a Human Heart."
Yeah,
And,
it
yeah.
is. And it's telling how we are connected to the ethereal book of life, where
Yes.
the information about each one of us is, and also about historical things, you know, and also about the future, really, because there's no past and no future. It's all happening within a realm of now. So
Yeah.
and of course, that is very, very difficult to grasp.
Uh-huh.
But we don't have to grasp it as such. We just need to try and connect to that level. And I give some examples on how I'm doing it. I'm not saying that what I do is the right thing to do or the only thing. It's the right thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to the conclusion that it's very important for me to stress that to people, that remember that it's your experience that counts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mine or anybody else. We can inspire each other through the experiences we have had, each one of us, and
Mm-hmm.
share it with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But when the day's over, it is your experience that counts for you.
Great.
And you must also find your tools, how you can get connected.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so in that way this is also something that everybody who works with, try to work consciously with these things, should have in mind, that always you need to question things. You need also to question yourself, not to be judgmental, but sit down. Why am I doing what am I doing? Why do I choose to do this? Why, you know, always to be trying to sharpen the knife, so to speak, the tools, you know.
I like that. And
Yeah.
you also wrote, or you said it in a video, I can't remember, but about the seer that he helped very many people, and every day at the end of the day he would sit down and connect with the universal forces and see, okay, where was I fully online with alignment, and where could I have done it better? Is that true? Something like that, yes?
Yeah, exactly. That was what he did, you know. And
Yeah.
he was not afraid of facing himself, and he always wanted to heighten the level of his work, you know.
Yeah.
And there was also another thing that I learned a lot from just being with him in that way, because sometimes he would just not be able to really do what he really liked. And then he was sensible, and he said to people when they phoned him in the morning, please try and call me in a week, because I'm not optimal right now.
Yeah.
And so he took responsibility for that also.
Yeah.
Even if he did not know why he was not able, you know, he just felt, I'm not connected these days. Something is going on. And he actually said, it's not only a matter of you and I that we have to go through things here in life. Sometimes there's also things that have to go through you. Just think about that. Really something to, because you know the feeling, you wake up one morning and for a few days you feel off somehow.
Yeah.
And you don't know what is really wrong. You just feel, you are kind of low. And that is maybe when things are going through you.
Yeah.
And I have found out in my personal thing that I actually think that there is groups of people who are, things have to go through them now for a period. And then suddenly it's another group of people. I don't know what is the difference between the groups, of if it's their star sign or whatever it is.
It's beautiful to recognize that, because it also takes sometimes away from the personal and the only me, but it connects you to a greater field.
So the next thing is, of course, what kind of things are going through us. I think it's something on a collective level that has to be purified somehow, or being recognized, or being taken care of. And that group who where these things are going through this group, each one of those people in that group who can be worldwide, they are dealing with it in each their own way. But just think about it, Jasper, if everyone was conscious about it. And actually just think, instead of the silly news that we have each day in the papers, the papers, if they were said, the next week there is this issue that is being dealt with through this group.
Some sort of weather menu, but then on the soul level.
You think about it. And it would be possible if everyone was aware. And that's another thing, that we should just know that we are already enlightened. Everybody is. You know, this crazy thing about, I want enlightenment. Well, why do you turn your back towards it then? You think it's something happening out there. You're totally misled. It is there where you are. You just have to realize it and start to act accordingly. And then you will be connected to it, you know? Take responsibility for it and start. But you think it has something to do with you being elevated, flying high up in the air, sitting in a lotus position with a halo around you. Maybe on one level that is. But if we can start to treat each other reasonable in a human way, you know, that's where it starts, you know. It starts actually at the supermarket, you know. Respecting each other, you know. For whatever we are going through. You know?
You can say anything and do anything, but how do you treat your neighbor? How do you treat your children? Like that.
Exactly.
So Lars, I want to ask you, because you already said it, we are worldwide in a situation where there is a great deal of oppression. And this has been going on for ages now, for a very long time, and it feels like the grip is tightening. So the ones who are trying to control are really doing their best. But at the same time, there's a great awakening going on. And you also talk a lot about the divine feminine and the more feminine qualities moving forward. Can you say something about this?
The divine feminine to me is something that is why I'm mentioning or focusing so much on the divine feminine, is that we are still dealing with not the divine masculine, but with the masculine patriarchal powers that is so primitive, and it cannot move beyond its own nose or tail, you know. It's so absurd in itself, you know, absorbed in itself. And that's why we need to have more focus on the divine feminine. But at the same time, I would also say we need the divine masculine. So it's not one or the other. It is actually, I'm talking about both of them. But instead of always have that focus on the masculine, like, for example, the Messiah, we forget that all the big avatars have had female partners, you know, and that is very, very important, because they are, like, for example, Maria Magdalena was the teacher of the female disciples, and Yeshua of the male disciples. The wedding at Cana that we can read about in the New Testament was actually the wedding between Maria Magdalena and Yeshua. You know, that happened straight after that Yeshua went from that cave, from my video, the Gate of Light, where he had sat for 40 days. That was the last initiation, right after he had been baptized by John in Jordan River. And he went there to put himself in a so-called unprotected state. That is what is meant by desert or wilderness in Aramaic. If you go out into the wilderness or the desert, you cannot hide anywhere. God can find you. And that is what is meant by it. So he sat there fasting for 40 days, facing his own shadows, the wild animals of the desert, and Satan, his own ego. And he passed through that initiation, and straight after he went and got married at Cana. with Mary Magdalene, who came from the therapists in Egypt, where she was initiated. Miriam the Magdal, Miriam the exalted one. And he was the Nazarene, the initiated one, the one who knew, or the one who was set aside for a higher purpose. That was what it really meant. And mind you, Nazareth did not even exist at the time of Jesus. If we believe the historian Josephus, who wrote about Galilee, the smallest hilltop in Galilee he described in his huge work, History of the Jews, but never, ever did he mention Nazareth as a book. But we know that the Nazarenes was a sect already mentioned in the Old Testament, and the Nazarenes were part of the Essenes, a small group of initiated people within the Essene group. John the Baptist was one of them. And so from that moment when they were married, they started that mission that lasted 3 years. And you can read in the New Testament, despite that you have tried to write her out of her very important position, she's there. She's always there, but he's turned into a former prostitute, which was absolutely crap, because she was a moon priestess. But I think it's 5 years ago that the Catholic Church have admitted that there's no reason to call her a prostitute. You cannot find any word in the New Testament that would give trust to that.
Yeah.
Instead, now she's called the disciple of the disciples, which is something. She's even above all the others. So now and I met a priest once, a Catholic priest, where I was talking to him about it, and he said the Catholic Church has always known who Mary the Magdalene was.
Oh.
But this was the first. In the beginning of the church, there was some men who did not want this feminine thing into play a part. Like Simon Peter, he did not understand Mary Magdalene. And she was supposed to be the one who should carry on the movement. But of course, they did not want that. So from that moment, you don't hear anything about her.
Yeah.
That time, it's funny because there was a movement in the Middle East. There was actually many, or some initiated men who were walking around with initiated women. You can read in the Acts of in the New Testament, in the Acts of Paulus, that he's describing Simon the Magus, who's walking around with his prostitute Helena, who's his. They're walking around, prophesying, healing, doing exactly the same as Yeshua and Mary Magdalene.
Wonderful, yeah.
And there were many of those. There were some couples who this was something that started up, because I think it was at a time where within the mystery schools, they have come to the conclusion that women was such an important part of this, because they were inside the mystery school. Now they wanted to bring it out also. And I think even some of the Essenes did not understand the teachings of Yeshua when he started to go out in public, because they wanted it to be behind closed doors.
Oh, yeah.
But he knew that this was something that was meant for everybody.
Yeah.
So, and we should remember he had also his teacher within the school of prophets, the Essene school of prophets at Carmel Mountain, was Judith, a woman from the Zarathustra tradition, who was an Essene herself, was the most important teacher for Yeshua.
Wow.
So the women have always been there,
Mm-hmm. It makes it so soft. And when you say about their marriage, it just touches me so deeply, because it also shows that it's all about love.
It is. Really, yeah.
And this is just healing the world, if we could acknowledge that.
Yeah, but there's so many dogmas that we have to cut through, because you could see that video I just did for some time ago about the female Messiah speech to the world, it created so much noise from, especially from American Bible Belt Christians,
Really?
so that really us, yeah. And that, you know what is funny is that, for example, the sleeping prophet Edgar Casey, he belonged to a Bible Belt. He was totally traditional Christian, you know. And when he started to have all these visions without knowing it, and he was told afterwards what he had been saying, he had never heard about these scenes, but he provided us with so much knowledge about these scenes. He even, I think 20 years before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, he prophesied that there was something being found there at the Dead Sea that would prove about them. So we have a lot of knowledge from him, for example. It's just a pity that there is such what do you call it, rigid kind of Christianity going on in America, that it's built up on hell and hellfire and sin and guilt and all these things.
Yeah.
It's just so a pity, you know, and I really, really feel for those people, you know, that have, because they are not bad people, you know, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's that it has nothing to do with the love that Yeshua was preaching, you know.
No.
How can you be a Christian going through the dogmas and forgetting about that you should never judge your fellow man?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense, really, you know.
No. Thank you,
But
Lars. It's also beautiful. What do you feel that in this time could help people the most? You already have said a few things, and you've got a wonderful new book, The Light of Human Within a Human Heart. And what do you feel that can help us as a human civilization?
it is to realize who we are, that we are spirits who are right now caught up in a body, you know. We are physical here, but we leave the body when we are leaving the earth plane, and the body is becoming, you know, it's just dust to dust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are only here for a very short time, you know. What do we need? What do we want to, how do we want to spend our time here? To eat and getting fat, to collect a lot of cars and houses and stuff, things that we cannot take with us when we leave here. It can be taken from us like this, you know, just an earthquake, and it's gone.
Yeah.
So what the hell, why are we spending so much time on these things? Why are we here? Who are we? What are we doing here? You know, like the Essene said, we only have one life, each one of us, but it is forever.
That's beautiful.
There's appearances, and then we step back. Then we come, like Shakespeare said, before we enter the stage, we are giving a costume and a role. And we go in and we say our lines. And after that drama, we bow, and it's either Rotten Tomatoes or big applause. Whatever it is, we go out and we reflect of what we have just experienced until we get a new set of costumes, a new book of saying, of lines to say, and we go in and perform our role. Until we get so clever about it that we find out, okay, I don't have to do this anymore because I think I've learned my lesson now.
Wow.
So we are here to transform darkness into light, matter into spirit. We are here to transform all the craziness that has been created ever since man first stepped in here, and start to follow his example. What did he do? And not follow the crazy dogmas of how some people thought what he was, but actually trying to, what did he say? You know, there's actually some of those people who have attacked me who don't even know what is written in the New Testament. For example, there's a place where Yeshua is quoting the book of Psalms, and he's saying, remember, it is written that you are all gods. All gods. It's almost blasphemy.
Yeah.
What do he mean by that, by gods? He means that I'm not the only son of God. You all have this within you. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And kingdom of heaven in Aramaic is actually Malkuta de Shem Aya. Shem meaning that image of God in which we were born. It's the seed of light. It's the sacred seed of life within us that can never perish, because the Shem Aya. Aya means which is forever. So when he's saying that the kingdom of heaven is within us, he's actually pointing to that light within a human heart that can never perish. That is us, that is you, that is me. Why should we? And he's actually saying in the New Testament, you should not put that light underneath a bushel. Don't hide it away, because that is the real fuel that you're going to go on. Don't mess with it.
Yeah.
And what is happening? We are messing with it. We are forgetting it. We are trampling on it. We don't want it, because nobody have told us about it.
Yeah, they told the other way around.
The church, that was their only thing they had to do, to tell people what we are,
What a world would we live in if that would have happened?
Yeah, but so this is why I think this is what I'm trying to do, to share these things with as many people as possible, and to tell them this is you. You are already enlightened. You are. Don't buy this stuff that you have to do this. I have to do. Take responsibility and try to. What is prayer? For example, prayer is a knife that cuts through your own noise and into that kingdom of heaven. And when I started to work as a therapist, I was really experimenting with a lot of things. How could I work with these things? And I found out if the prayers I wrote myself was the most strong, And it doesn't matter if they are poetic or beautiful. Write your words, because they mean something to you. So in that way, they will be much more effectively opening up to that chest of into the kingdom of heaven, where that power is within you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Prayer is a knife that cuts through the mental stuff into the kingdom of heaven. Yeah,
exactly. And I have this is what I've been working with. Very simple things, don't make it more difficult than it has to be. Keep it simple. And you can do this in the supermarket everywhere. You don't have to sit in a lotus position, or if you are not able to meditate, okay.
Yeah.
You can do something. You can always be aware,
Yeah.
Find a simple way. And that's what I'm trying to inspire people in my books,
So Lars, where can people find you? You are always traveling all around the world, actually. Can people can visit you on your website, Lars Muhl.
On my website there you can find, and I have a YouTube channel on where you can find new videos.
Yeah.
And all the old videos I've done. I think there's right now more than 90 videos with things I work with, and
there's so much videos, there's so much books. You offer you have created a place where people can get free healings. You offer so much. So for people who feel inspired, please visit Lars Muhl.
There is a healing, free healing website called Hearts and Hands.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
.dk. Yeah. It's based here in Denmark, and it has more than 100 healers work for free. They're not working all the time every day, but 2 times a day, a group of those are sending out healing to those who are on the healing list. Yeah. So you can just go in on that website, and you can put in your information. And mind you, you don't have to put your personal information, just your first name and the city you live in, and what kind of problem you have.
Yeah.
And then for a month you will be on that list, and then you'll have to get back to the group and say, I want to continue, or I'm off now, and I'm just tell them if you are any better, or
Great.
and
I will put some information in the text with the video so people can easily find all these things.
very, very fine. Because
and Lars,
of course, yeah.
Sorry?
I think, yeah, I try to also that the prices for my workshops are not too high, because I want everybody to be able to attend if they want to.
Great.
Of course, one has to make a living also. So
yeah, of course.
I'm not in this for the money. I'm in here for the work, you know.
Yeah, that's great, and that's obvious. Thank you. Lars, a part of this show is that I offer you a little gift, which is a heart song. After this conversation, I just tune into the energy and let the music and the words flow, and I hope it gives you and the listener something. And after that, if you feel you want to add something as a last message to the viewers, please be very welcome. So I hear the first tone. If we'd all remember where we come from, where our souls reside, we are made of light, moving through the ages, discovering what lies inside waiting. We are made of the same love, and this is the true story, what we're made of. And we can all stand up, and we have to, and we need to, and we will free ourselves from old stuff that has been hanging around for ages, creating some weight. We will elevate into a new song, into a new world that is made of the heart and the light within a human heart will shine for all of us to refine. Yeah, the light within a human heart can create a world made of love. So dive within and find the treasure. Take every chance you can to come back to the soul, back to the source. You know what's good for you. Remember what's true. Follow the path of your unique heart, 'cause you know what's true inside. Shine your light. Bring it out into the world for all of us to refine who we are. Shining stars of the heart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lars, for this beautiful conversation. It has touched me deeply. And is there a last message that you would like to give to the people?
Don't forget who you are.